let's dive deep into this one. Law 2 from the 48 Laws of Power. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
Quite a mouthful, isn't it?
It is, but also kind of a provocative concept, right? I mean, this is Robert Greene we're talking about, and he really makes you rethink how you view the world. This law especially makes you examine relationships and power dynamics in a whole new light.
It definitely throws conventional wisdom out the window. We're conditioned to believe that friends are our allies, our support system.
Right, our ride or dies.
Exactly. But Greene suggests they might actually be the biggest threat when it comes to power.
Yeah, that's the part that throws me. Why would he say that? Like, unpack that for us a little bit. Why would friends be more dangerous than enemies in this context?
Well, you got to consider the emotions involved in friendships. Envy, for example. It's a powerful emotion. As you gain success, friends, even the closest ones, might feel a twinge of envy.
Even subconsciously, maybe.
Absolutely. It might be totally unintentional, but it's there, lurking beneath the surface.
Okay, so that makes sense. And what happens when that envy festers? Does it just disappear?
Unfortunately, no. It can morph into something a lot more toxic: resentment. Especially if they start to see your achievements as a reflection of their own shortcomings.
Oh, I see. So it becomes less about celebrating your success and more about a sort of comparison game.
Precisely. And that's a slippery slope. It can breed competition and rivalry, which can poison even the strongest friendships.
Yeah, it's like that saying, familiarity breeds contempt. I think that applies here. We let our guard down around friends, share our vulnerabilities, and sometimes that creates an opening for these negative feelings to take root.
Exactly. And because we trust our friends, we might miss those subtle shifts in the dynamic. We don't see the resentment building until it's too late.
Okay, so we've got this potential for envy and resentment simmering beneath the surface. Not a pretty picture. But then Greene goes even further. He actually argues that enemies can be more reliable in certain situations. How is that even possible?
It's not that enemies are inherently more reliable, but think about their motivations. An enemy who becomes your friend has a lot to prove. They're eager to demonstrate their loyalty.
Oh, so there's almost like this overcompensation thing happening, like they're trying extra hard to prove they're worthy of your trust.
You got it. And since their alliance with you is strategic, they're less likely to let emotions like envy or resentment cloud their judgment. Their loyalty is tied to their self-interest, making their actions more predictable, and in a way, more reliable.
So it's almost like they've weighed the costs and benefits and decided that being on your side is the best move for them. Fascinating. But what about those who stay enemies? Is there any advantage to having a few adversaries around?
Absolutely. Enemies keep you sharp. You have to constantly be on your toes, anticipating their moves and refining your own strategies.
So it's like having a sparring partner who pushes you to improve your game.
Exactly. Complacency can be your downfall. Enemies, in a weird way, can be catalysts for growth. They force you to stay vigilant and adaptable. Plus, let's not forget the reputation boost. Having powerful enemies can actually make you seem more formidable, more worthy of respect.
I never thought of it that way. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right? Okay, but enough theory for now. Let's get down to brass tacks. Can you walk us through some real-world examples where this dynamic played out, either for better or for worse?
Of course. Let's start with a cautionary tale from history. Emperor Michael III and his close friend Basil I.
Okay, set the stage for us. Byzantine history, always a good time.
Right. So Michael III was a young emperor known for his lavish lifestyle. He had this close confidant named Basil, trusted him completely, elevated him through the ranks, showered him with gifts, even made him co-emperor.
Wow, that's putting a lot of faith in someone. Sounds like a recipe for trouble.
And trouble is exactly what he got. As Basil's power grew, so did his ambition. He started to resent being second in command. He wanted the throne for himself.
Oh boy. I can see where this is going.
Yeah, it's not pretty. Michael, blinded by trust, failed to see the danger, and the result? Basil staged a coup, killed Michael, and took the throne for himself.
Brutal. A stark reminder that even the closest friendships can be shattered by the allure of power.
Exactly. Misplaced trust can have deadly consequences.
Absolutely. So we've seen the dark side of this law, but what about the flip side? Any examples where someone successfully used an enemy to their advantage?
Oh, absolutely. Napoleon Bonaparte and his relationship with Charles Maurice de Talleyrand is a perfect example. Talleyrand was initially a fierce critic of Napoleon, even plotted against him early on.
Wow, that's bold. Aligning yourself with someone who actively worked against you. What possessed Napoleon to take that risk?
Napoleon was a brilliant strategist. He recognized Talleyrand's genius, saw him as a master diplomat with a keen political mind. qualities he knew could be invaluable to his regime. So he offered Talleyrand a position in his government.
So instead of viewing Talleyrand as a threat, he saw him as a potential asset, a powerful mind that could be harnessed for his own purposes.
Precisely. And Talleyrand, eager to prove his loyalty and maybe sensing an opportunity to advance his own ambitions, accepted the offer. His knowledge and diplomatic skills proved crucial to Napoleon's rise to power.
That's incredible. It really shows how turning an enemy into an ally can be a brilliant move. Napoleon neutralized a threat and gained a valuable advisor in one fell swoop. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you think about it.
Definitely. It challenges our assumptions about relationships and power.
It does. These historical examples are fascinating, but let's bring things a little closer to home. How about we explore how this law plays out in the stories we tell ourselves, in fiction? I think looking at a few examples from movies or TV shows could really help our listeners connect with this concept.
Great idea. Fiction gives us a safe space to explore these complex dynamics, right? We can glean insights into human behavior without real-world consequences.
Exactly. Shall we dive into the world of storytelling then?
Let's do it. All right, well, let's jump into the Seven Kingdoms then. Game of Thrones, a perfect example of this law in action.
Ooh, yes. Game of Thrones, betrayal, backstabbing, power grabs, they've got it all. Who are we focusing on here?
Eddard Stark, a man known for his honor and integrity. His story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of misplaced trust.
Right. Ned Stark always trying to do the right thing. Didn't really work out for him in the end, though, did it?
Sadly, no. He goes to King's Landing as Hand of the King, believing his friendship with Robert Baratheon will shield him from the political sharks circling the court.
He was a bit naive, wasn't he? Thinking friendship would protect him in that viper's nest.
Definitely. He completely underestimates the ambition and ruthlessness of those vying for power. He trusts the wrong people, fails to see the manipulation and deceit.
And ultimately pays the price. Who's the one who really betrays him?
Peter Littlefinger Baelish, a master manipulator who uses Eddard's trust to orchestrate his downfall.
Littlefinger, well, that guy. He's the embodiment of everything Green warns us about. Cunning, ambitious, totally amoral.
Exactly, a perfect example of how someone can exploit trust for their own gain.
It's a brutal lesson. Never assume friendship equals loyalty, especially in a world where power is the ultimate prize. Okay, so that's a pretty heavy example. Got any others?
Sure, let's step out of Westeros and into Gotham City. How about The Dark Knight?
Okay, Batman, I'm in. How does that fit into all of this?
Harvey Dent. He's the White Knight, the symbol of hope and justice. But he undergoes a tragic transformation. Shows how even the best intentions can be corrupted by power.
Yeah, Harvey Dent, Two-Face. His story is definitely a dark one. How does it connect to the idea of friends being potential threats?
Well, Dent starts as an ally to Batman, right? But after a series of devastating personal losses, he becomes obsessed with revenge. Turns into Two-Face, a criminal driven by chaos and chance.
And suddenly the guy who was fighting for justice is now a villain.
It's a classic fall from grace. Shows how easily an ally can become an enemy. How circumstances and trauma can twist someone's motivations, make them unpredictable and dangerous.
It's a reminder that even the people we think we know can change. Power can corrupt even the most noble intentions.
Absolutely. Dent's story is a powerful illustration of that. We have to be vigilant.
Okay, got it. One more, just to really drive the point home.
Let's go for it. Let's shift gears again. How about a political thriller? House of Cards.
Okay, Frank Underwood, the ultimate political schemer. I can see where this is going.
Frank Underwood is a master manipulator. He understands how to use people, both friends and enemies, to get what he wants.
That guy was ruthless. He didn't care who he stepped on to get to the top.
He treats relationships like transactions. He'll befriend someone if it benefits him, but discard them just as quickly if they're no longer useful. He's playing chess, and everyone else is just a pawn in his game.
A chilling but accurate depiction of how power can be abused.
Exactly. Underwood's story shows how someone can leverage relationships for personal gain, with no regard for loyalty or personal connection. It's a warning to be wary of those who prioritize power above all else.
These fictional examples, while entertaining, are also pretty thought-provoking. They show how these power dynamics can play out in different contexts.
They highlight the potential pitfalls of trusting blindly and the importance of understanding the motivations behind people's actions.
So let's bring it back to reality for a second. How can our listeners apply these insights to their own lives? Most of us aren't dealing with kings and supervillains on a daily basis.
True, but the principles of this law still apply. It's all about awareness, about recognizing the power dynamics that exist in our own personal and professional relationships.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From Byzantine emperors to Gotham City, we've seen how this law, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies, can play out in different scenarios.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. We've delved into the dark side of trust, the dangers of betrayal, and the surprising ways enemies can be used to our advantage.
It's definitely a law that challenges our conventional thinking about relationships and power. So as we wrap things up, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I'd say the most important thing is awareness. Being attuned to the power dynamics that exist in our relationships, even the ones we consider close.
Right. Recognizing that even friendships can have these hidden power struggles going on.
Absolutely. We need to pay attention to those subtle cues, the red flags that might indicate envy, resentment, or even a hidden agenda.
So not being naive, not assuming that just because someone is a friend, they have our best interests at heart.
Exactly. And I want to be clear, this isn't about becoming paranoid or suspicious of everyone.
Right, not turning into a recluse who trusts no one.
Exactly. It's about developing a healthy sense of discernment, understanding that people are complex, motivations can be complicated.
And ultimately, protecting ourselves by making smart choices about who we let into our inner circle.
Exactly. But also remembering that people who might seem like adversaries can sometimes offer valuable perspectives or opportunities.
Yeah, I like that. Keep your friends close, but keep an eye on your enemies too. Not to manipulate them or anything, but to understand them. Maybe even find common ground.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the full spectrum of human relationships and navigating those relationships in a way that serves us.
It's been an eye-opening conversation for sure. This law, while maybe a bit unsettling at first, offers some valuable lessons about power and how we can navigate those dynamics with a little more awareness and a little more wisdom.
I agree. It's a call to be more strategic in our relationships, to understand the forces at play, and to make choices that empower us, not hold us back.
Well said. Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive. Your insights have been truly insightful.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this exploration of LAW-2. We encourage you to keep thinking about these ideas, observe how they play out in your own life, and use this knowledge to build relationships that are both fulfilling and empowering. Until next time, stay savvy.